Okay. Now let's take a moment, as before, to just generate the right motivation again. Take that moment to just quickly remember all sentient beings. The fact that due to their rude ignorance, they're bound to suffer in numerous different ways. And so generate the wish for all of these sufferings to be removed, for all sentient beings to be free from their problems and limitations. And the wish, may I be able to lead them to a state where they're free from all suffering and its causes. And since I can do so only most effectively only once I become a Buddha, so generate the sincere wish, of the sincere aspiration, may I become fully enlightened for the welfare of all sentient beings. And it is with this motivation that I continue to learn about Buddha nature. Okay. So, well, we finished one part of the text. Now I'll start from page 49, which is, well, an explanation of the two types of Buddha nature, and with debates. It's set forth in the form of different debates, which, well, those debates in here, on the basis of those, we then would debate among each other. But those are not like debates in the form of debates that we perform. There's some argument back and forth, some logical kind of discussion back and forth, but it's pretty short, and then something else comes. But it provides us with the format of a debate, plus the information that we need. But sometimes it's not straightforward. We need to read it again. Like I said, it's parts of developing these skills, these intellectual skills. This presentation is part of that, and it's therefore presented in that way to help us just to train our mind, make it more flexible. Excuse me. Okay, anyway, without reading through all of those, so you'll see there's this dot. There's always like a little dot, and that's someone making an argument. It's also slightly, what's the word, indented? No, not indented, but it's a little smaller in terms of the formatting. It doesn't fill out the entire page, but then that which fills out the entire page, that's then our own system. I mean, Benjasantapa, or our own system responding. So then that way you have like this discussion going. And like I said, I won't read all of them. Some of them are like just holding on to the words. And well, you need some time to read through it, come to understand it. But the part that we're going through now, it introduces quite a few ideas. I mean, so far we've just talked about Buddha nature here right now. What are the hindrances, for instance, in our own case? And not so much about the path that leads to Buddhahood. And this is something that is now mentioned as part of what we're going to go through next. I mean, not exclusively, there are a few other things that we go through, but the path, the Mahayana path, is now becomes much more of a topic. And even though we may be far away, it may be a long time, well, maybe, yeah, maybe a long time for some and not that long for others. We don't know. But the point is, in general, we can say, well, maybe a while until we enter the Mahayana path. And still, it is so beneficial to learn in detail, to know exactly how to follow this path. It's kind of like if you plan this huge journey and you don't know really where you're going and have no idea what to pack, have no idea how to get ready. If you go through the different stages of your journey, you know, oh, at some point I'll need rain gear. At some point I'll need I don't know, I need sandals, or at another point I need sun cream and so forth. So you know what to pack, you know how to get ready because you know which bits you're going to cross. And that way, really, if you go through a journey and yeah, like go through the different stages and kind of understand what to expect to a certain degree, and of course it'll always be different if you're actually there, but have some general idea, well, that helps you to get prepared in the right way. So similar to that analogy, although we may be far from the path of accumulation, which is the first Mahayana path, consists of 5 paths, and then a few stages as well that are part of the 4th path. So, but anyway, we have these 5 levels of 5 paths. And now to get ready for that, what do we need to do? What do we need to focus on? And that's explained. That's going to be part of what we'll learn now. All right. Okay. So first of all, at the very beginning, as I just read through some of the things that I marked, so without actually discussing all the debates, well, we hear, for instance, that the 2 types of Buddha nature, of course, they're contradictory. There's nothing which is both. All right. That's pretty easy, but it's stressed here again that there's nothing which is both naturally abiding Buddha nature and evolving Buddha nature. All right. That's something said on page 50, 51, there isn't really much, 53, 50. So just quickly going through them. Oh, this is all from the point of view of the Chittamatra, actually, by the way. But anyway, whether it's Chittamatra, of course, there the 2 Buddha natures are contradictory, and that is true for the Madhyamika as well. But I didn't really, I'm not going to say anything much about the Chittamatra because we did spend some time on it. We spent some time yesterday discussing that philosophical system, and I think I've covered the most important bits. So if you go to page 54, that's when Buddha nature is explained according to the Madhyamika. And once again, just to put it into context, what is this text now? Well, previously, I mean, for a large part, I think until like page 45, probably we went through Benjin Sontakpa's general meaning. As the name implies, it's just generally giving you an idea of what Buddha nature is, gives you some general explanation, but then to become more precise, and that's important, precision. So precision in terms of the language and precision in terms of the meaning, most important. There's a lot of emphasis on precision. So sometimes we speak in a very vague sense, and that's all right in our daily life to not be that precise. It's totally all right. But when it comes to understanding reality, that kind of precision to delineate exactly this is this phenomenon, this is that phenomenon, this is how they relate to each other, that is extremely helpful, in particular when it comes to realizing, the true truth, the ultimate truth, the conventional truth. And this is also part of the training here. It's something I haven't mentioned yet. This precision, to be very clear on what does this mean, what is the definition of this, and if something fulfills the definition, it is this phenomenon, and if it doesn't, it is something else. All right. And so the first kind of first debate or first argument that is presented is someone defining now naturally abiding Buddha nature. Right? Saying, well, the definition of naturally abiding Buddha nature is emptiness of a mind that has stains. Okay, stains is another word for obstructions, obscurations, obstructions to liberation, obstructions to enlightenment. And first hearing this, we may go, oh yeah, that makes sense. It's it's the emptiness of a mind, the mental consciousness. So a mind here, mental consciousness, and that has stains. That mind has stains. It has obstructions. Okay, sounds about right. But for many different reasons, actually, that is not correct. Actually, a few things come to mind besides what is argued here, and it becomes more obvious as the discussion continues. But I'm just going to address the bit that is mentioned here, the emptiness of a mind that has stains. All right, so do our minds, do all our consciousnesses have stains? Do they all have obscurations? Does any type of mental consciousness we have, does it have obscurations? Okay. Now, actually not all of them. So one example here is given: the uninterrupted path at the end. There's actually a word missing. The uninterrupted path at the end of the continuum, as it says. Please note it says that the uninterrupted at the end of the continuum. So that's missing. Never mind. So there is something called an uninterrupted path at the end of the continuum. All right, what is that? What is an uninterrupted path? Just quickly, as we go through these different levels in order to become enlightened, I said it's 5 levels, 5 paths. And on some of these paths, path of seeing, which is the 3rd, and path of meditation, which is the 4th level or 4th path, we develop a type of mind that realizes emptiness, selflessness, the ultimate nature of phenomena directly. It experiences it directly. And because of that direct experience, it removes some of the obstructions to liberation. So some are removed on the path of seeing, while meditating, while having that mind active, realizing emptiness directly, and some are removed on the path of meditation. And obviously, of all the different situations when such a mind arises and when such a mind removes some of the obscurations, there's obviously a last one, because at some point we're done. As with everything, we remove something, well, there's a time when we remove it for the last time, because, when it's all gone, it doesn't need to be removed any longer. And so as a practitioner, a Mahayana practitioner moves through the different levels, there is a point when there's no obstruction to be removed, or the last obstructions, the last ones, the subtlest ones, the hardest to remove, really, those ones are going to be removed. And once they're eliminated, then that person is a Buddha, by definition, right? Once you've eliminated, Buddhahood is not so much, and I think I mentioned it before, Buddhahood isn't about gaining something new. I mean, in the meditation, I said, we have everything already to become a Buddha. We have everything here. You've heard me say this many times. Many of you have heard me say this many times. We call it Buddha nature, not because we're saying we are Buddhas. No one is saying we're already enlightened. No, but we have all the ingredients to be a Buddha. One of my teachers, Geshe Kelsang, he uses this analogy of going to a restaurant, and going to a good restaurant where you get a plate of fresh Israeli salad. Fresh means they didn't cut the salad sometime in the morning. No, they cut it right there. As you sit down, you order your salad, and then the cook starts cutting the salad to prepare your Israeli salad. So what does it say on the menu? Israeli salad. It's not there yet. I mean, you don't want the Israeli salad to be already standing in the kitchen. So are they lying when they say on their menu, we have Israeli salad? No, they say we have all the ingredients here. We have everything here for you to get your salad. If you order it, we'll prepare it for you. So this is similar. This is the analogy that Geshe uses, saying we have Buddha nature, we have everything we need. We have this mental consciousness, and that mental consciousness doesn't exist the way it appears to us as existing inherently. No, because of this fact that it lacks inherent existence, and because its conventional and ultimate nature is such and such, therefore we can all become enlightened. We have everything there. Okay. But our mind right now is afflicted by obstructions that are extra. All the result of a basic misapprehension of reality. That basic misapprehension of reality added all this extra mess, all these extra emotions, all these other afflictive emotions, like self-cherishing and anger and attachment and what have you. So therefore, we need to remove it. What do we need to remove? The root. The root we need to remove. That's really what you mainly remove. And directly removing the mind that holds onto the inherent existence of phenomena. That mind. Actually, really, you remove that. We say remove anger, coarser anger first and subtler anger secondly, and so forth. But that's just saying, because you remove the root. Remove the root ignorance that is associated with this type of anger. You remove a subtler type of, in stages. Like I said, in stages, you remove basically ignorance. That particular ignorance that apprehends all phenomena to exist inherently. And initially, it's just a coarser type, the one that can easily be removed, and then you go subtler. And that is called a stain, okay? And of course, everything that results from that root ignorance, anger, attachment, and so forth, well, all those are also stains. But when you remove them, you remove that misapprehension, and in that way, make sure that that which would otherwise arise from that ignorance cannot arise again. It's as simple as that. That's why you only need the mind realizing emptiness directly. That's all you need. Because if you remove, in order to remove the mind that holds on to inherent existence, you just need to have a mind that perceives the opposite. It's very easy, very straightforward. It makes total sense. If you believe there's a ghost in your cupboard or under your bed, in order to remove that mind that believes there's a ghost underneath your bed, you just need to develop a mind that perceives there is no ghost underneath your bed. All right? That's all. You can take a sleeping pill or maybe forget about it for a while, but to really get rid of that fear that comes from, oh, there's something underneath my bed, oh, you better look. And once you understand, no, there's nothing underneath my bed, the mind, there's something underneath my bed, won't arise. Same thing, same idea. So here, once you realize emptiness directly, you've experienced emptiness, you can't lose that mind. You have it, you will have it for all times. You can never lose that. Once you get to that point where you experience, wow, phenomena are just labeled. They don't exist in and of themselves. They don't exist independently, inherently. Not at all. They don't exist that way. Once you realize that, you won't lose that. And then that mind removes step by step. It's a little different, of course, to the mind that believes there's a ghost underneath your bed, because that's easily removed. You understand there's no ghost, it's gone right away. In the case of the root ignorance, we had it for so long that we need to strengthen this mind that realizes emptiness directly, strengthen it further and further and further. So the first time we can eliminate the misapprehension, the ignorance that was developed only in this lifetime based on certain cultural, philosophical ideas. So that is removed, that we intellectually hold on to. The innate one, you can initially not start to eliminate. But anyway, I hope it makes sense that what I just said, the whole path, it's basically all around, it all revolves around, most important part is to remove the ignorance. And in that way, remove everything else that's in the way. So therefore, we can say the mind that is not enlightened is a mind that has obstructions, that has stains. We can say the emptiness of that mind is the emptiness of a mind, of some basis of a mind that has stains, that has obscurations. But there's one problem, because the last time, when for the last time you generate the mind that realizes emptiness directly, you're not yet a Buddha. The last time you generate that direct realization of emptiness, you enter your mind into that. Like we were thinking of other things before, and now you go back to emptiness. Focus on that again in your meditation. And you have only a few stains left. Well, during that meditative session, you can eliminate them. But while you're eliminating them, they're not present. While you're eliminating them, they're not there. They're not there. I mean, it's not like you eliminate them in the way in which you, I don't know, beat someone up, for instance. So you're beating them up. You need the other person there to beat them up. It doesn't work that way. It's like once that mind is there, the mind that realizes emptiness, then that which is being removed can no longer. So if it's that, it needs a certain strength. So the last time before become a Buddha, that's the strongest type of awareness, realizing emptiness directly in terms of its ability to remove obstructions. It doesn't get any stronger. And with that, you can now remove the subtlest of the obscurations that are still left. And as that removal takes place, they're not there. I mean, they're no longer there, but they haven't been eliminated yet. They're just not there. And so in the debate, you would ask, well, if they're no longer there, why have they not been eliminated? What's the difference between saying not there and having been eliminated? So when have they been eliminated? Well, the actual elimination, having been eliminated, is the first moment of being a Buddha. You know, like you realize emptiness directly, you're still not a Buddha. It's the last time. It's the end of the continuum as a sentient being, as a non-Buddha, that you realize emptiness and you're removing the last stains, the last bits that keep you, the last obstructions that keep you from being a Buddha. But you haven't eliminated them yet, because otherwise you'd be a Buddha. But they're also no longer in your continuum. And so what's the difference? They're no longer there, but they're not eliminated. And the analogy that's usually given in the scriptures, it's a bit like, it's like you're kicking out a thief. So kicking out the thief, the moment this mind realizing emptiness, you as a sentient being, as a non-Buddha, so the moment it arises in your continuum for the last time, as you being a living being, for the last time, that mind arising as an antidote to any of the obscurations, well, at that time, it's kind of like the moment it arises, the thief is kicked out. You kicked it out, but you haven't closed the door yet. So it's like saying that hypothetically, if you were to just remain in that state without having eliminated yet, it's kind of like you have to close the door. You have to make sure it doesn't come back. Okay, it would hypothetically be if you didn't close the door, so mentally somehow close the door, make sure it doesn't come back. Therefore, while you're removing it, it's like you've kicked it out, you kicked out the thief, and then once you've closed the door, that's when you've eliminated. That's when that process of elimination is complete, and that marks the moment when you're a Buddha. Okay, so that's an important idea. I mean, it's not saying like your root ignorance and your mind realizing emptiness, they meet like two boxers in a ring, or I mean, in two boxers in like meeting during a fight. That's not what this means. I mean, yeah, or when you kill another person, eliminating them in that way, you need the other person there. It works slightly differently because it's a mental phenomenon. It relates to something mental, and therefore those two minds cannot arise at the same time. And also, well, whatever else is removed, the imprints, well, in this case, it's the imprints, well, they're gone. It's really like what you're left with is the subtle imprints. The mind, actually, the ignorance is already gone, and the ignorance was removed on the 8th level, but you have the imprints, you still have the imprints left on the mind, the residue that was left on the mind, and that is actually removed on the 8th level. Sorry, I previously made it sound as if it was on the ignorance. No, actually the ignorance is gone, but the imprints. So therefore, for the last time, when your mind, if you're a bodhisattva on the last level, now when your mind for the last time arises as a direct realization of emptiness that serves as an antidote, well, these obscurations, they're no longer there. But you're not omniscient yet. You still haven't eliminated them. You haven't closed the door yet. And the moment you've done so, you're Buddha. You have eliminated everything. Okay, so therefore, is there a time when a sentient being has no longer any obstructions to enlightenment in his or her continuum? Yes, there is, during that time, during that last time. And therefore, what is that mind? What is that emptiness? What is the emptiness of that consciousness, realizing emptiness? What is the emptiness of the mind, that particular mind, realizing emptiness directly? Is it the emptiness of a mind that has stains? No, it's the emptiness of a mind that has no stains. So the definition doesn't work. All right. So it's like, whoa, that was a lot of work. How do we get there? Is very simple. Well, someone says the definition of naturally by Buddha nature is emptiness of a mind that has stains. Well, there is a mind that doesn't have stains, even in the continuum of a sentient being. And there's lots of debate around it. If the stains are gone, why is this person not a Buddha yet? I mean, hasn't closed the door yet, but I mean, the stains, they keep us from being omniscient. So why not omniscient? I mean, it's like, difficult to answer, really difficult. However, on the other hand, it makes sense that that the way the mind works to eliminate something, I mean, just take the mind that believes there's a ghost underneath your bed. It's not like the two minds meet, the mind that believes there's a ghost and the other mind, and they're simultaneously there, and then we're having this little fight. That doesn't happen. It's like the moment, to use this analogy of like, the moment you realize there's nothing underneath my bed, the other mind doesn't arise. In that moment, it cannot be there. And that's how this elimination works. And it should work in all areas. It should work in all situations. All right. So maybe that's useful as part of your study. It's a little puzzle piece. A little puzzle piece that can be added to the big picture. All right. All right. And also then there's this whole discussion that follows. Well, have you eliminated? Have you attained on that level, on that uninterrupted path at the end of a continuum? That's what this path is called. It's called uninterrupted because uninterruptedly you realize emptiness directly and remove what needs to be removed. So it's uninterrupted in that sense, totally focused. And it's an uninterrupted path that is at the end of the continuum because it's at the end of the continuum as a sentient being. Okay, so it's a literal translation of the Tibetan term, an uninterrupted path at the end of a continuum. All right. And that path, then there's this whole discussion. So have you attained freedom from the obscuration? And the answer is, no, the freedom hasn't been attained. It's just not there. They're not there, but the elimination, the freedom from that obscuration, that is not attained yet. So it's a bit like playing with words, but what else are you going to say? I mean, the cessation of that has not been attained. So it's a bit like using words in a certain way to try and convey that. And that's what this is all about here. Then also something that is mentioned is a terminology that you find in the Buddhist scriptures that we may not pay that much attention to, but the word actualizing emptiness, someone actualizing emptiness. That's weird. Like, we don't use that word really in that way. We realize emptiness. What do we actualize? We actualize the cessation of suffering. But this is mentioned here that actualizing emptiness means something very specific. It refers to a person who's able to work for the benefit of other sentient beings, perceive other sentient beings, and at the same time know their emptiness, realize their emptiness. And only a Buddha can do that. Only a Buddha can do both. Do things and engage with sentient beings, benefit them, and realize at the same time their emptiness. We can do one or the other. We can, of course, interact with someone, take a moment, realize their emptiness, and go back, kind of alternating very quickly. That's possible. But a Buddha can do both. I mean, the mind of a Buddha is such emptiness at the same time, realize the emptiness of the person, and with the same mind, also know their conventional nature. So that's pretty amazing. And actualizing emptiness is just another way of saying you can do those two things. So really, to actualize emptiness, only once you become a Buddha. Anyway, just a short, that's just mentioned in here. You see, it's like part of bringing the puzzle together. They mention this, and then hopefully you remember. And if you ever come across some passage, oh, this person has actualized emptiness, you know what that means. Actualizing it. It's like actualizing this, well, His Holiness this morning talked about it or mentioned it briefly, or definitely yesterday. Also, we need to understand the true suffering. We need to eliminate the true origin. We need to actualize the true cessation, and we need to practice the true path. So actualize, that's how the word is usually used. Okay. Anyway, that is just something at the side. Okay, I think that should suffice with. Oh yes, and then there's something else that I thought was important to mention in this context. Also something that moves away a little bit from Buddha nature. I mean, it's not directly related to it, but it also takes us back, like saying the emptiness of the mind that has stains, for instance. That's a little bit problematic, to put it that way. Here in this context on page 58, it's a different definition that is given, but anyway, you can use it the same way, because when we say the emptiness of my mind, is that the emptiness of a mind? Actually, it isn't. Just because my mind is a mind, that doesn't mean that the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of a mind. Okay. Why? Well, actually, the reason is to realize the emptiness of a mind, or of the mind, or of a mind. I'm analyzing something specific to get there. Mind, not my mind or anyone else's mind, just a mind. And then I'll realize its emptiness. But when I realize my emptiness, the basis is something different. I mean, the basis based on which I now try to understand, or try to, realize its ultimate nature. It is a specific mind. It's a specific mind in that moment. And so we need to differentiate. For instance, I wouldn't say that the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of impermanence, just because my mind is impermanent. That wouldn't make sense. So just because my mind is a mind, that doesn't mean if I realize the emptiness of that doesn't mean that the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of a mind. Okay. So in general, this is how it's taken. And it kind of makes sense. I mean, sometimes it's really difficult with language. Language, of course, is our only tool. But in a way, we have to say that because like I said just now, if I were to say that the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of a mind, well, if I say that, I would have to ask someone else, why? Why is the emptiness of a mind the emptiness of my mind? Why is that the emptiness of a mind? And the answer is because my mind is a mind. Well, then it follows that the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of impermanence, because my mind is impermanent. You can take it further. If the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of a mind, then the emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of the lack of inherent existence, because my mind lacks inherent existence. Do you see how it's problematic to say that? But there's another debate. You can now turn it around. So the emptiness of my mind, is that not the emptiness of a phenomena? Or the emptiness of myself, is that not the emptiness of the self? And actually, in that case, there's an exception. We divide emptiness. We say the emptiness of phenomena and the emptiness of the self, right? Selflessness of phenomena and selflessness of the self. We distinguish, right? And any selflessness of any kind of person or of any type of being is considered to be the selflessness of a person. So there's this exception made in that, because we have this particular category. That's the reason we have this category. This was established as a category. However, in the other case, so this is the only exception that's made. Emptiness of person, and we don't even say the emptiness of the person or a person. It's just emptiness of person emptiness of phenomena without using an article. However, like I said earlier on, emptiness of my mind is not emptiness of a mind, even though my mind is a mind. All right, so that's what it says here. The emptiness of Devadatta, that's an Indian name, said to be a cousin of the Buddha called Devadatta. Anyway, it's also an Indian person's name. I could also say John, or I don't know, Shaka or whatever. So saying that the emptiness of a person, or no, the emptiness of Devadatta is not the emptiness of a person, and the emptiness of a particular mind is not the emptiness of the mind. All right. Okay. So just wanted to say that. That's again useful information that later on we need to become aware of. I mean, just in terms of making sense of things. I mean, sometimes it's like using this terminology, it's like, it's so strange. But if you understand what's behind it, I have to say that. If you don't say that, other things don't really make sense. Okay. All right. And then there's a lot, I don't think it's that relevant for here and now. Let me just make sure I don't lose sight of the time. Nope. Okay. Also, the emptiness of a mind that has stains. To get back to the original definition, later on, although the definitions are slightly changed, but the problem is here, the emptiness of a mind. Our mind, well, our consciousness consists of main minds and mental factors. So we talk about mind and mental factors. So if you say the emptiness of mind, of, let's say you can even, well, let's say you were to agree the emptiness of a mind. The emptiness of my mind is the emptiness of a mind. Even if you were to allow that, then what about the emptiness of feeling? It's not a mind, it's a mental factor. Now, is the emptiness of the feeling that is associated with my mental consciousness, is that Buddha nature or not? Is it Buddha nature? The different mental factors, yeah, it's all Buddha nature. The emptiness of, you see, think of the mind. There's this distinction. For some of you, this is very familiar, but for others, it may be a little harder to understand this. But it's really, in order to understand the mind, the way it's presented, of course, the mind is nothing physical. And we like to maybe picture it in the form of a stream of water or whatever. I mean, stream of consciousness. What does that even mean? We can't help it. We probably have some visual kind of imagery, some imagery that helps us to understand what that mind is. It's probably something visual because we're very visually oriented. And so when we hear consciousness, what is that? Well, consciousness, its main function really is to apprehend an object, to be aware of an object. That's its main function. So from the point of view of that main function, we say there is a main mind, there is mind, but it has so many other functions. And when we talk of these functions, they are called mental factors. It has the function to feel something. So we call that the mental function of feeling. It has the function to differentiate between this phenomenon and that phenomenon, perceive different phenomena all the time, and so differentiate between this and that and so forth. So these are all mental functions, and these mental functions are called mental factors. And they're the mind itself, those functions. It's a little bit like saying, take a particular person, take John. John can do many different things. There's John, just the person John, existing as person, as human beings. That's like the main John. And then there's John the cook, and there's John the writer. Of course, they're all John, they're all a person, but a specific person in terms of specific abilities. So in a similar fashion, we say with the mind and its mental factors. The mental factors are very specific function, not the main function of apprehending something. That would be the mind from the point of view of the specific or general function. No, we're talking about mental factors here as these specific functions. They're more detailed kind of, or more specific functions, which are the mind or consciousness from the point of view of these specific functions. And they're not the same. They're not the same. John from the point of view of the cook and John from the point of view of the writer, for instance, they're not the same. They're not the same person. In the end, what you're pointing at is the same person, but conceptually, there's a difference. And so this distinction is also made when it comes to Buddhist psychology, in order to understand the mind better, to understand that there are these very distinctive functions. There are these distinctive functions, and we shouldn't confuse them. This is why the emptiness of the mind is not the emptiness of, the emptiness of feeling is not the emptiness of some certain type of mind, because feeling is not a mind, it's a mental factor. Okay. But what I need to mention is sometimes the word mind is used like main mind, and sometimes it's used just in general as mind. So it depends a little bit on the context, but especially in the very precise context of Buddhist philosophy, where you're very precise, you usually, in general, when you give up a Dharma talk, oh, there's the mind, there's consciousness, there's no distinction, mind and mental factor. You're being pretty vague sometimes with your wording, and that's okay for general understanding. But in the context of debate, in the context of studying philosophy in all its details, there's this requirement of using terminology in a very precise way. And in that context, you're trying to use mind, mental factors to distinguish between the two. Okay. So it's really the world of philosophy. And it may seem like, oh, what's the point? Let's just get back to just general and I meditate and become a Buddha. All right. Well, the thing is, of course, it's not easy. The only reason being our mind. Our mind can be so tricky when it comes to afflictive emotions. It finds little wiggle rooms to get around it, right? You're thinking you're a Dharma practitioner, but your attachment is right there, right? You're thinking you're doing all this Dharma. So our mind is very tricky. It can really deceive us with these little tricks. And so the kind of philosophy, this precision, is in order to pay real attention to the meaning and not to come through, not to have all these contradictions arise, because actually contradictory states of mind, that is a quality of the afflictive emotions. That's the afflictive emotions. They're contradictory states of mind. They're not they're in contradiction to reality. Every afflictive emotion is in contradiction to reality. And we're trying to undo that by understanding reality as it is. And that's why in the philosophical context, it is so important to avoid contradictions, to not add to the confusion. All right, I hope that makes sense. Quickly, do you have any questions so far? I don't believe you're Israeli. I'm not talking to Israelis.
Yeshima, did you say that the emptiness of a mental factor, such a feeling, is still Buddha nature?
Yes, absolutely. Right. I mean, of the mental consciousness, of course, mental factors of the mental consciousness. I mean, what is happening to the feeling? What's happening to discernment? These mental factors, are they going to become the enlightened mind of a Buddha? Of course. It's not like, oh, you lose feeling, you lose discernment, you lose all these functions, and you just have, no, you need all these functions of the mind. Of course. I mean, Buddha's mind has all these functions, and on top of it, it's free from all obscurations. And so, yeah, they're all Buddha nature. The emptiness of feeling itself. But of course, I'm not talking about sense consciousness. I'm talking only of mental consciousness. Okay. Any more questions? Varda, yes?
Yeah, I would like to know, as much as I can you hear me okay?
I can hear you well, yes.
Okay. As much as I remember, when you see emptiness directly, like you see emptiness of one object, then you know the emptiness of all object, of
That's
everything,
true.
of all phenomena.
That's
So
true.
why, if you have the emptiness of the mind, it doesn't include the mental factors?
Oh, because when you realize emptiness conceptually, you don't necessarily, right?
Okay,
So
okay,
yeah, you're right.
okay.
There are minds where we realize the emptiness of everything, but not all minds are like that.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's conceptually you are talking
Yeah.
about.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And the distinction between phenomena happens mainly on the conceptual level,
Conceptual mind.
right? Yeah.
Okay. So understood correctly. Thank you.
Okay. Good. All right.
Geshe,
Yes,
yes,
please.
I have a question. It's maybe related to what Varda said.
Yes.
So I understand that we cannot posit the emptiness of a mind based on the emptiness of my mind, because these are different things.
Yeah, different phenomena, exactly.
But what about entity and its parts? For example, if I posit the emptiness of the part, can I now say I have the emptiness of the whole of the? You understand?
Okay. Let me ask you. Okay, if I realize the emptiness of Tomer, do I realize the emptiness of all Israelis? Because you're part of all Israelis, right? Right? If I realize the emptiness of the tire of your car, do I realize the emptiness of your car? Because the tire of your car is part of your car, right?
I understand what you said. Yeah, but it sounds like if the tire does not inherently exist, then the car cannot, right?
That is true, but whether you understand that or not, that's a different matter, right? Of course, I mean, then based on that, if I realize the emptiness of one thing, I should realize the emptiness of everything, because what can be empty if the tire is not empty? But no, it's all about, well, that is just one reason anyway. But I mean, these phenomena are different conventionally. We definitely can agree that they're conventionally different. So therefore, their emptiness must be different as well, right? I mean, the tire of a car is not a car. Why should its emptiness, right? I mean, and also in terms of realization anyway, it's not that easy to realize emptiness. You start off with certain objects, and then very quickly you realize all the other phenomena, and very quickly you have very quickly, but with someone you have a direct experience, and then anyway you realize the emptiness of everything. However, initially that doesn't happen. Yeah. All right. Yes, they are.
You said that the emptiness of my conscious mental mind will become the emptiness of my mind as a Buddha, right?
Exactly.
So I'm asking about the word become. The emptiness of my mind each day until I'm Buddha is the same emptiness, isn't it? The mind is.
Well, is it the same emptiness?
That's the question. I think so.
Well,
so I can say the emptiness of my mind when I'm angry, the emptiness of my mind tomorrow when I'm happy. But my mind is changing, but the continuum is one entity, right? And the emptiness of my continuum, is it the same emptiness until I'm a Buddha? Or it becomes an emptiness? What does it mean? It becomes an emptiness of a Buddha.
Okay. All right. So of course, there's a bit of a difficulty saying it becomes that, because that seems to suggest that, for instance, like, a seed is something dynamic, is changing, and it transforms to become something else. So that's how the word is usually used. We're most familiar with it in this context. So, but when we hear something permanent, I mean, just the absence of inherent existence, of something that has never been there, inherent existence, how can that become something else? Here the word become means something slightly different, in terms of, we say becomes only based on the fact that its basis, so the mind of a sentient being becomes the mind of a Buddha. And so therefore, the emptiness that was previously emptiness of a sentient being is now the emptiness. So there's definitely that connection, because we shouldn't see the emptiness of an object as separate from that object, right? Therefore, I don't say that the emptiness of your mind now and the emptiness of your mind as a Buddha are the same. How can the emptiness be the same if it's if it is inseparably linked to that which is empty of, right? Who said it? Try to find her name. She said, what's her name? The woman with the kind of Naomi. She's not there right now, but Naomi said, she said it. She said, what did she say? I'm trying to think, what was it? I just had this thought and then I lost it again. What was it? Sorry, forgot. Oh yeah, she said it. The emptiness itself doesn't exist inherently, and it's merely labeled on the basis of, for instance, its basis. So on the basis, oh yeah, when I asked this question, can you see that, for instance, when you have a table and its emptiness, can you see a way in which the table is the basis of the emptiness? And she said, well, yeah, the emptiness is labeled on the basis of that. The emptiness is labeled on the basis. It's also merely labeled. So what is it labeled on the basis of? What is it labeled? For instance, on the basis of that which is empty. And so if its basis is different, right? If the basis is different, of course, the object on the basis of which it's labeled has to be different. Therefore, the emptiness of your mind now is not the same emptiness. They're similar in that they're just the lack of inherent existence, but you can't see them as separate. Emptiness doesn't flow in space somewhere. You have the emptiness of your mind now, you have the emptiness of your mind tomorrow. They're not the same. Okay. All right. That's going into emptiness, but of course we can't avoid that talking about Buddha nature anyway. All right. Is this clear so far? Any further questions? This is philosophy pure, I'm afraid, but that's what we're here for. Okay. All right. So then a few other things here that pop up. Well, someone suggests that the emptiness of, the definition of a naturally abiding Buddha nature. So it's really not easy to define it in a way that there's no logical fold. And in order to precisely understand what exactly is naturally abiding Buddha nature, like to define it correctly, to have everything included that is naturally abiding Buddha nature, in that it fulfills the definition, and anything that is not naturally abiding Buddha nature not fulfilling this definition. That's what we're trying to achieve here with this definition. So definitions should be very precise. And so Passon is saying that was just the emptiness of a consciousness, and so forth, and which, when its state is transformed, is suitable to become the Svabhavakaya, the nature body of a Buddha, right? So when its state transformed, it is then suitable to become a Buddha. There's just this, it kind of sounds right, and I'm not talking about all the other aspects. So if I put it more simply, it's all about, if its state is transformed, then it's suitable to become a Buddha. Okay, it's based on a mind. When that mind is transformed, it is suitable to become a Buddha. So here the argument would be, what about the last moment of mind of a Bodhisattva? When that is transformed, is it then suitable to become a Buddha? No, because it's already Buddha. When it is transformed, because it's the last moment. So when that is transformed, in other words, transformed in terms of to become enlightened. So when that is transformed, a moment later, it's not suitable to become a Buddha because it is a Buddha. All right. So this is distinction. Again, it's just words, but to learn how to use words precisely. If I say, whatever is Buddha nature, it is such that the mind on which it is based is such that when that mind is transformed, I mean in the enhanced, transformed as like moving towards Buddhahood, well, then it is suitable to become a Buddha. Well, if it's transformed in the case of a last moment of consciousness, once it's transformed, means it is already a Buddha and not suitable to become a Buddha. So that distinction, if something is already a Buddha, it's not suitable to become one, it is already one. This is like words. It's actually just, but like I said, it's part of the study to learn to be very precise with words, be very precise, because otherwise it may lead to contradictions. And as we know, contradictions are an obstacle to our understanding reality. All right. Okay. And then the definition of, okay, so then the definition is given by our own system. How would you define, and I didn't read through all of them, but how would you define naturally abiding Buddha nature? So previously what was refuted was these definitions given before. And now what we usually do, we reflect on them, like we discuss them with each other, we reflect on those. Do I understand that? Does it make sense? I get more information, new information. It just deepens one's understanding. But here, then the definition is given according to our own system, and still we're very skeptical. Is this really the definition? Do I see a fold in that? Whatever I learned previously, is there anything that is not? So in that way, use our mind, use this logic, and in the debate, you will again try to establish that this is not the definition, which may be difficult, but still just for the sake of debate. So how does it define? How is naturally abiding Buddha nature defined? It is that which is the emptiness of a consciousness that is its object of support. So not just consciousness in general, but here specifying that is its object of support. So that is that which is its basis. It's not just, it's a specific type of consciousness here. It's not just consciousness. So here trying to avoid this fold of saying just consciousness in general, and has not eliminated stains, all right? So this uninterrupted path at the end of the continuum has no stains, but it hasn't eliminated them. So there's a slight difference. And which is suitable to become the Svabhava Kaya, or the nature body of a Buddha, which is the emptiness, the mental consciousness of a Buddha. It's called Svabhava, or nature body, right? So it's suitable to become that. Even if you take the last moment, it's still suitable to become a Buddha. We're not saying when it is transformed, then it's suitable. No, it is suitable to become the body of a Buddha. Okay, so let's see. I mean, analyze it. Does that make sense or does it not make sense? Okay, it's debatable. And then there's the definition of evolving Buddha nature. And again, this is our own system's actual definition, that which is Buddha nature and is suitable to become a conditioned or impermanent kaya of a Buddha. Well, yeah, it transforms into the mind or mental factors of a Buddha. Therefore, and even if you take the imprints, even if you say the imprints or the seeds, the potential, as we call them, like that potential, that's not consciousness itself, but that potential, it's also suitable to become the kaya of a Buddha, whatever, maybe the potential of a Buddha or whatever it transforms into. And it's very hard to say what does it transform into, but at least it transforms into some aspects of a Buddha, and therefore into a condition that is an impermanent quality of a Buddha. Very difficult to pinpoint, maybe a certain potential of the Buddha to benefit sentient beings, if you like. That's a little hard. I mean, potentials are difficult anyway, but we need to say that they exist. So therefore, actually in the Madhyamika school, not just the mental consciousness, but also its potential to become enlightened is considered to be Buddha nature, but the mind is mainly seen as Buddha nature. Okay, so that's the definition given, and you may want to, you may debate that, you may have doubts about it, but that's totally fine. But everything like what we did so far, it just helps. I mean, we didn't read through it, but when you do read, it just helps to deepen your understanding, however confusing it gets, but it makes your understanding, your mind more flexible, helps you to think about these things, and just that process in itself is so beneficial. And in the end, you end up with the definition being given here, and doubt may arise, and that's still healthy to question it and so forth, but you definitely have a better understanding of what Buddha nature is, evolving and naturally abiding as before. That's the whole purpose. Okay. And then there's something that is that I definitely want to mention on page 60. That is a lot of it. It's debated a lot. And yeah, some people have a view on this that I find difficult, and others see it differently. I'm included. So, okay, let me present you the argument. There is this argument that, and we don't need the whole context, but there's this argument, for instance, when you take an afflictive emotion, such as the root ignorance. Let's take the root ignorance. Its emptiness. Is the emptiness of an afflictive emotion Buddha nature or not? Right? Okay, just the mind itself it's neutral, just mental consciousness as a stream of consciousness. Well, yeah, that's Buddha nature. Then what about mental factors, feeling, discernment? Yeah, they're all Buddha nature. But what about the mental factor of aversion? What about the mental factor of attachment? Can that turn into a Buddha? What do you think? If you think yes, then press your little hand. If you think it can turn into a Buddha, press your little hand. Your virtual hand. Okay, now I'll find out who's paying attention. If you think it doesn't, press your little hand. So whoever's not showing their hand, they're not. Okay. So if you think it doesn't, it's not Buddha nature. If you think that that anger is not Buddha nature, please press your little hand. Okay, not everyone. Okay, they may be undecided about it. So they're just 3 virtual hands. Well, very difficult. So the question is therefore, does my mind turn into the mind of a Buddha? We would all say yes, right? And that's the reason why we say my mind, my mental consciousness is Buddha nature. It's that which becomes. So what about my anger? Does my anger transform and become a mind of a Buddha? I mean, we say we eliminate the mind. We eliminate anger. But does that mean the continuum of anger is cut? Right? Look at anger as a continuum, as a consciousness. So it has a continuum. So can you cut the continuum of a mind? Can the continuum of a mind go out of existence? Right? And kind of like usually the argument. So I present you, like if I debated this, I would say, well, it seems to suggest here, I mean, according to what Benjamin Tsongkhapa says, that it's not Buddha nature. It's not suitable to become the body of a Buddha, because it's an afflictive emotion. You don't want it to become. How can an afflictive emotion become a Buddha? Right? It's kind of like, ooh, that sounds odd. But so if I now presented that and the other person says no, right, cannot become a Buddha, then I would argue, well, can a bad person not become a good person? Right? Can a disruptive mind not become a positive mind? Are we not just transforming our mind? Are we not transforming an obstructive mind into a non-obstructive mind? Do we not transform a samsaric mind into a non-samsaric mind? Do we not, and then you go through the whole list. We transform an afflicted mind into a non-afflicted mind. Well, what about the main mind that is connected, that is associated with anger? Does that not become the mind of a Buddha? Right? It's not anger itself. There's not an afflictive emotion itself. It's just connected to that. Is that main mind, is that function of just apprehending its object, and that continues on. And what about the mental factor of anger? I mean, it's still clear and knowing. So that aspect of the mind, does that not continue to become enlightened, to become the clear and knowing aspect of a Buddha? Right? So this is a big debate. And I personally feel, and I mean, in the end, you don't have to agree with everything that's in the text. To me, I believe also anger is Buddha nature. I believe this anger, it's not in the nature of that mind, right? It's not in the nature of the mind. So why would you destroy the whole mind? Why would you eliminate the whole mind if it's not in its nature to be angry? Remove that aspect of anger and the mind continues on. The mental factor in this case continues on, right? So yeah, it's a bit of it's difficult. It just depends how you look at mind and mental factors, really. But I believe if you say all the other mental factors and minds, they're Buddha nature, then it would only make sense to say that anger is Buddha nature too. But that's just my personal opinion. Okay, I just wanted to mention that. That's a big mistake. Sorry, a big debate in this context. And then what about sense consciousnesses? Sense consciousnesses are not considered to be Buddha nature, but very interestingly, then someone says, what about the emptiness of the I consciousness, the sense consciousnesses? And Benjo Tsongkhapa says that needs to be analyzed. Huh? What? Sense consciousness? I mean, he keeps it open. It's like, why does he keep it open? But that's also something, seems almost like Benjo Tsongkhapa doesn't really know, but he should know it's not, right? If the I consciousness is not Buddha nature, then why should this emptiness be Buddha nature, right? He should just say, no, it isn't. And he says, well, it needs to be analyzed. So he has his doubts. And so we have doubts because he has doubts. Like, why would you have doubt? Okay, so just something that we thought about. This is all part of like reflecting on, why does he say that? And sometimes, of course, Benjo Tsongkhapa says things to exactly have that, to lead to exactly that, to think about it and go like, what? That seems contradictory. That can't be. And to just give it more thought, to think it through. And of course, in that way, hopefully understand it better. It's such a great tool. I mean, like just to mention this again, I mean, the tool of logic, it is really helpful. It is so helpful. It's a tool. That's it. But you develop this tool that is very beneficial in, well, understanding those different ideas. And before we can internalize them, of course, it's important to understand them. But that's not the only thing. I mean, we need more than that, much more than that. But it's just one of those tools. Anyway, what else is there? I'm trying to think. Is there anything that is relevant to you before we do the meditation? Yes, it's about time to do it. Just quickly looking whether there's anything I want to mention. Okay. No. There really isn't that much. I mean, bits and pieces I didn't mark, but all I want to do in this, I want to finish this section for now, because those are just these debates back and forth. And like I said, most of them you understand. And yeah, so right now I don't really find anything, nothing that I've marked that I think is important. Maybe one last thing. We have heard of someone being definite when it comes to, what is it? How does it, was it put? Who's definite with regard to Mahayana nature or not definite. This actually also, it doesn't just mean like definite in the sense that no matter which tradition you encounter, well, if you're definite with regard to the Mahayana nature, you will definitely enter that path. So no matter what, and if you're indefinite, then, well, whichever comes first, if you hear teachings on the Pali tradition first, then you will follow the Pali tradition. So this is how it's put, but it actually also means that someone who's definite will very quickly, in a short period of time, enter the Mahayana path. So this distinction being definite with regard to the Mahayana is someone, although they haven't awakened their Buddha nature, haven't awakened their Mahayana nature, but definitely very soon they will enter the Mahayana path within this lifetime. So that's also just a term to pay attention to, that's mentioned here. So all we're left with, and there's this last part I would like to do in the last session. It's just mentioning the 13 types of Buddha nature. They're just described from the point of view of the path. And I briefly want to go through them. You may find them interesting. That's what we studied. And it helps us to understand the path a little better. So, but the last thing that, before we meditate, the last thing that remains is any idea why great compassion is the aspect of that. Why is it great compassion that is so important? I'll hear one person on that. Is anyone who has an idea? Why is it great compassion of all the different types of mind that is said to be that which awakens our Buddha nature? Any idea? No, there's no one. Well, I'll tell you. Oh, yes, please. Elisheva. Yes, please.
Yeah. Maybe it's very close to emptiness, but the feeling of...
Great compassion? No, it's not closer to emptiness than other minds, like even bodhicitta or...
It's the way to, no?
No. I mean, it helps, but that's not exclusive to great compassion.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I appreciate that you tried. Very good. Yes, Iki, did you want to say something? I thought I heard Iki's voice.
Maybe because it should be active.
Ooh, please unmute yourself. I'll unmute myself.
Maybe it should be active.
The echo is with you.
Iki said maybe Iki is sitting right here.
Oh.
Iki said,
I mean, you were on the stupa and you were on the beach.
and Ronnie is also on my beach, and Shoshko, we're a group here. Anyway,
Lovely.
yeah. But anyway, Iki says maybe it's active.
Yeah, but
Maybe it's active.
it should be active.
It should be active.
It's a mind that is more active.
Do you hear me from this microphone?
Can you hear Iki now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Because compassion should be active, not just looking at the person and then feeling something that is very ambiguous, but you feel compassionate and then you want to be active to liberate this person from his misery.
I think you're saying, well, because compassion has this nature that it motivates you to act, whereas other minds don't, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, bodhicitta is kind of that motivates you to act as well, right? I mean, bodhicitta is not seen as that. I mean, it's a mind that even precedes bodhicitta. It's a great compassion. So, because it motivates you to act, all right. But just your closeness to sentient beings may also motivate you to act, right? I mean, maybe there's something to it. I'm not saying it isn't, but I believe there's a different reason. Anyone else would like to try? Yes, go ahead. What's your name? Hadas?
Hadas. Yes,
Yeah.
I had an idea. I hope I can explain myself, but for me, I see compassion as a kind of acceptance, like accept the thing in the way they are. And I think that it's like part of like the Buddha, like to see.
Okay. Am I the only one who's just lost her? Oh, sorry, Hadas, you kind of broke up.
I'm saying that for me, it's part of like acceptance. Accept the thing.
Acceptance.
Accept the things as the way they are, like the compassion. And I guess like it's like getting close to the nature, like getting close to things without aversion, without without the feelings, without the mental illusions that we got, without the imprints, like just being with the things.
Okay, it's interesting idea because we think of compassion actually rather like we want someone to be free from it. So by acceptance, I get what you're saying. It's kind of not aversion. It's saying, okay, that's the state it is. It's not like being upset. Oh, they're suffering. Bloody hell. I'm so compassionate. I'm so angry with anger. No, it's not like that. Yes, it's there. It's an accepting factor. I totally agree with you. It's just this, okay, this is what it is. Now may this person be free from suffering. It's definitely, if it's actual compassion, it's definitely very much in accordance with reality. I like your explanation. I also like what Iki said, but I still don't believe this is the reason that it makes it so special from all the other minds. And since time is running out, I'll tell you what I think. I mean, this is not really described in the texts, but it's based on something my teachers explained. So not just based, it's really what they explained, but it really makes sense to me. Up to great compassion, up to the moment we focus on other sentient beings and want them to be free from suffering, up to that point, it's just about, I want to be free from suffering. It's all about that. Our whole life is about, I want to be free from suffering. And if it's like someone who's close to me, then I may go, oh, may they be free from suffering because they're important to me. But without the I being involved, great compassion, and this is how it was explained to me, great compassion is this mind that when you generate it for the first time, your focus was not on me and my problem, but other sentient beings' problems. It's like it precedes bodhicitta. You have to have it before you can have bodhicitta. So you go 180 degrees. You go in the other direction. It's others well-being, right? So of course it also needs a certain degree of understanding suffering is in the nature of our existence, and all that is true. What Khada said is definitely true. And also, as Iki puts it, that it drives us to do something. And Elisheva says, well, helps us to realize emptiness. That is true, but I believe also further than that, more than that, it is like for the first time since beginning this time, it was me and my suffering, right? And then it's all sentient beings suffering. And I don't exclude myself from that, but it's not just I'm the center of the universe. Everyone is in the center of the universe. Everyone is suffering, and everyone's suffering is of concern to me equally. So that's like from me, everyone. Okay. And that's like such a huge break. That's like, wow, what a huge step. If you think how you come to bodhicitta, first you generate a feeling of closeness towards all sentient beings. All right, that's already a huge step in the other direction. But then you want them to be free from suffering. You wish them to be free from suffering, and you wish to contribute to that. That really does something to you. That really rattles you. That rattles your mind. And such change happens in the mental consciousness that now you're creating your mind in such a state that is much more conducive to spiritual practice. Okay. That's the power of compassion, really. I mean, you can still debate with that. You could still argue, well, but this is just my view, and you shared yours, and I just share mine. Whether that's true or not is to be seen. But I need to stop because I want to do a meditation. I like to do a meditation now. I mean, so far it hasn't been that hard, but maybe a little harder, not hard in terms of understanding hard, but a little harder to identify with, is this one verse of the Uttara Tantra. Just spend some time on reflecting on the reasoning why we all become a Buddha. Just kind of bring it together, okay? And to internalize this idea the Buddhas are all around, and that the emptiness of my mind and the emptiness of a Buddha, in terms of just lacking inherent existence, there's no difference. Not saying that they're the same emptiness, but just to really, for that to sink deeper. And of course, to also consider the fact that we have this mental consciousness and so forth. Just bring it together, that therefore Everyone can become a Buddha. So it's worthwhile to aim towards it in order to lead others to the same state. So just to bring this from an intellectual level to more an emotional kind of level, I want to do this meditation. And please allow, because as I keep talking, time is running and time is running out, but allow this meditation to go a little bit longer, and then we just deduct the time from the next session. Is that okay? Okay. All right. So let's do this. And one thing that you're probably aware of, but I want to mention it. I didn't want to overwhelm you with too much, but especially with this meditation, it's not like it's going to hit you like, whoa, boy, yeah. No, you've heard all this. But in this analytical meditation, his Holiness kind of mentioned it this morning, but it got lost a little bit in translation. His Holiness said we have to develop a feeling. It's important to develop a feeling for these things. So it's not like an intellectual level. We need to bring it onto an emotional level. So on an emotional level, it needs to rattle you. A meditation is only effective then. So our study is usually just intellectual. Contemplation is also on a certain level. It's an intellectual level. It's a little deeper. But meditation is when you bring it onto an emotional level, when your emotions are involved, when you're moved, because all our actions come from the emotions. It's all happening on an emotional level. Our innate, our instinctive actions, most of our actions come from a level of emotions. And well, we don't want the afflictive emotions together with their distorted views to be in charge. We want the emotions that come about through our correct understanding. We want them to be in charge. We want to be moved by those emotions. And what are these emotions? When we understand that everyone can become a Buddha, then the things that were so important so far, worldly stuff, it moves to the background. It's less, it's not as important as any longer. There's something that becomes more important in our life, right? Because it's all what is important in our life is determined by emotions. Okay. So having said that, hopefully it helps a little further to make analytical meditation effective in that way. Like this being moved on an emotional level. That's what I would like to be the result of this. Okay, so let's start. And before any kind of emotions arise, first of all, let's do some breathing to be sure that your mind is totally focused. Now let's consider what Maitreya has explained in this one extremely important verse. Why all sentient beings, whether human butterfly, insect, animal, Preta being, or any other being can and will some point become fully enlightened. He gives 3 reasons why that is the case. Three reasons that if they're fulfilled, then it makes perfect sense that everyone will become enlightened. Even the tiniest flea. And even if that's really hard to fathom. Vastly. It's obvious that in order to become enlightened, we need someone who shows us how. So we need the instructions of a Buddha. But the good news is that the Buddha's quality, that is the Buddha's mind, is all pervasive. There's nowhere in this world, in this universe, where there's not the mind of a Buddha. And since a Buddha's mind can manifest, communicate, in countless different ways, assistance is always there. Guidance will always manifest. whenever a person is ready. So allow for that to really sink in that wherever we are, there is the mind of a Buddha. For the mental energy is not stopped or obstructed by anything. And secondly, the nature of our mind. Nature of any being's mind does not differ from that of a Buddha. Conventionally, everyone's mind is clear and knowing. Even the mind of a fly, the mind of a serial killer, the mind of a Buddha. It's clear and knowing. So despite all the afflictions, all the misapprehensions, all the hatred, every mind has that in common, that it's clear and knowing. And on an ultimate level, every mind, whether enlightened or not, lacks inherent existence, is merely labeled. The basis of certain aspects. Is labeled on the fact that it has an object, it's labeled a mind on the action of perceiving something. it's labeled on moments in time of phenomena appearing, phenomena being perceived. Based on that, we label mind, consciousness. Therefore, the minds of a Buddha and all other minds are equal in being empty of inherent existence. Which takes us to the third reason why all sentient beings will become enlightened, can become enlightened. That due to the conventional and ultimate nature of our mind, we have Buddha nature. Our mind has the potential to become just like the mind of a Buddha. So to summarize, Buddhahood is possible and will be achieved by all sentient beings. Since in its nature, there's hardly any difference between the different types of minds. And since there are Buddhas everywhere, driven by compassion to lead us to enlightenment. So it's absolutely worthwhile for our own benefit, but also for the benefit of all sentient beings, that we make a sincere effort to actualize our fullest potential. And thus aspire to become enlightened. And now to conclude this analytical meditation, allow for whatever insight that you've reached. Allow this to sink deeper by way of just single-pointedly focusing on that insight. And then slowly arise from your meditation. And to end the session, let's dedicate whatever virtue we've accumulated. Let's dedicate it towards exactly that. Towards utilizing our fullest potential. May this become a cause for us to successfully attain the mind of enlightenment, and then eventually purify our mind from all the stains, to become a Buddha for the welfare of all sentient beings. To finally be able to benefit them most effectively. Okay, thank you. All right, now it's 43. Let's start again at where you were. It's 50. It's 3:45. Let's start in half an hour. So 4:15, wherever you are, 4:15. So 4:15 where you are, right? 4:15. So let's meet again 4:15.